raised in Connecticut, and actually what's really important to me are my two kids. So I came back to Connecticut to raise them about 10 years ago, and I've never regretted that decision coming back here. My family lives here still today with, in various towns in Connecticut. And I'm not a career politician. I had no intention of running for office. I don't have a prepared speech or anything. I literally just decided to do this after friends and neighbors and relatives kept calling me and saying, we've got this problem with this change going on in Washington. That's all I've got left, is a little bit of change. You've got to go down there and do something about it. And I thought about it for a long time, and I decided, you know what, I stayed in Washington and worked there for 10 and a half years. And I remained principled. I didn't change. I was able to get things done. And, you know, in Washington, they don't give you a lot of money. They give you a lot of paper awards and stuff. So, you know, I'm not in there, you know, wheeling and dealing, trying to get money. I'm in there trying to get things done, and I proved myself to you. I proved that I can work at the highest levels of the U.S. government. I've worked with Capitol Hill. I've seen the bureaucracy of what goes on in there. It's not a pretty sight, and it was a real hard decision. I'm going down there to fix some things. I'm not going down there to become part of the problem. I'm going down there to become part of the solution. And what you'll find from me is that when I see a problem, I go out and fix it and take it into my own hands and do whatever I need to do to get the job done. I also served as a volunteer firefighter on a bunch of local boards. I'm involved in my community. It was a hard decision to go down to Washington, again, in these times. But you know what? What do we do when we have problems in Connecticut? I was raised in New England. We pull ourselves up by the bootstraps. We do what we need to do to fix things. So I made that decision. What do I believe in? I believe we have to have local government that's strong. We should start, like the Republicans say in our platform, from the bottom up. We don't need Washington controlling our lives. Do you agree with me?
No. Yeah.
It's really simple. If my daughter's 12 now, when she was 10 years old, she kept asking me, how come you have to give all this money away to Washington? You give $1 and you get back a few pennies. I don't think we need to do this. We don't need laws written in such complex language that you need attorneys to interpret them and reinterpret them. This is ridiculous. We need straightforward laws. We need to read what we vote on in Congress. Do you think that's a new concept? Let's read the laws, and if we don't have time to read them, then let's not vote on them until we have read them. We don't need to create legislation like in health care, Bill 3200, which is so complex that there was not even enough time for a speed reader on Glenn Beck to read through this. And when this is going to take so much of our economy and put it under the government, that we're going to lose control over our own lives, this is wrong, plain and simple. If you take card check, health care, and one or two other bills, some estimates are 70% of our government could end up being controlled in Washington, not in our houses. It's wrong. It's plain and simple. It's easy for me to see. It's easy for the younger generations to see. I have students from when I was teaching at UConn and at Easter that would come up to me and start to say, what's my life going to be like? It's not our right to give away the wealth of future generations, right? That is wrong. And we can see it, and Washington knows it, and they continue with it. So that tells me we need a change, and we need a big change. And the only way to do that is to throw out the incumbents who are not doing the job. So that means that each of us has to stand up in our communities and elect local Republican officials, people that believe in local government and doing only what we can't do for ourselves. And then we move to the state and to the federal levels. I also firmly believe, I'm a little bit strange on this one, I don't think that I should have to run for 2 years for Congress to take a job, to get a job that's only 2 years in length. I think that's ridiculous. So we need some reforms there too. And I've lived everything that I've said. I took my people on my campaign staff this fall, and I have now, as of this week, a little over 400 volunteers. And we put them in towns around the state of Connecticut. We had people calling in Wilmington, and Lebanon, and Mansfield, and Madison, and in Haddam. Because I need to live it. If I'm going to preach it, I want to live it. We put them out in the towns, and we helped them to get the vote out. We put street signs out. We did door-to-door. We did phone calling. And this fall, we're going to take my campaign workers, and everybody already has agreed to do this, and we will help local candidates when they need it. We will go with them, and we're going to take back Connecticut, and then we're going to take back this nation. I've proven myself. I've worked hard all of my life. I haven't just been sitting there asking my parents or anybody else to give me things. I've taught my children the same thing. You can't spend what you don't have. I think it's a pretty simple lesson. I think we're seeing the results of what happens when you do spend what you don't have. Washington was a credit card company. They couldn't even get a credit limit raise. They spent way too much. We can't even afford to pay it back. It's ridiculous what's going on here right now. So the only thing I can say that we really need to do is we need to move back to some common sense area. When I look at what Joe Courtney has done to the state of Connecticut and to the U.S., he's taken away our freedom, he's taxed us to death, he supports big spending, and when he does a poll on his own website a while ago this fall, saying, do you think you will be better off, the same, or worse off with the health care reform packages that we're proposing? And the people answering it say, over 90% say we will be worse off. How does he vote? Does he listen to us?
No.
No, he doesn't listen to us. When people try and call him or get letters answered, does he respond?
No.
Oh, yeah, he does. You get that roto letter that says, thank you for answering me. Thank you so much. I'm so glad that you support me. Would you like to go on my mailing list? And by the way, I'm running. Would you like to make a contribution? We need people that are going to do the work and really be able to accomplish something in Washington. I have a proven track record. I've been down there. I came back to raise my children. I left D.C. area because I wanted that sense of community. I could have gone on and done other jobs, but no. I came back because I wanted church, I wanted family, I wanted community. I wanted that stability that I grew up with in Connecticut. And I'm not willing to give up on that. I think the greatest days are ahead of us. And I can remember when I was sitting with Ronald Reagan, many times I've met him, but back years ago, and he was sitting on a couch and he would love to lean back and kind of relax. And being young at the time and looking at Ronald Reagan, you just kind of like, whoa, this guy is incredible. You just wanted to listen to the man, and these pearls would come out of him. And he would just look at you and he'd point to you and he'd say, just remember, your generation, it's your turn now, that shining beacon, that light on the hill, it's your responsibility to keep this country free. And I've been writing a lot lately for Human Events and different articles and talking about, as Republicans, we have to unite and come together. And what we did that was wrong in the early 1980s is we believed Ronald Reagan and that everything was going to be fine without having to participate. We listened. We didn't do anything. We didn't do enough. And look at where we are today. So what I say this time is, let's listen to what Ronald Reagan said about America. I heard him say it in my own ear. But this time, let's participate. So to that end, one of the things that I started doing this past spring was I created the Constitution Brigade. And you'll see on your tables, I don't know if they're all gone, but one of my handouts, instead of just a piece of literature, is a copy of the Constitution. And I thought, you know what, people are going to rip up literature, but I hope they don't rip up a Constitution pamphlet. So I hope you'll take them there. If you need more, we give them out by the thousand. When I started working in Washington in 1979, we had 70,000 attorneys within the D.C. area. Do you think that's healthy?
No.
I think there's a little bit of a problem. Healthcare just is one item. We could cut 30% off of healthcare. Don't you love how politicians use stats? We can prove anything with statistics. I taught statistics at college, and if anyone's taken it, you can use it to say whatever you want. But the reality is, there's lots of things that we can do. You can buy health care across state lines. You can form groups. We can have drug reform. We need to talk about these things, but we need to be active. And if I'm going to go to Washington, I need each of you and your support. I'm running a grassroots campaign. I'm going down to Washington to meet with the National Republican Congressional Committee this week. I'll be gone for a few days and a bunch of other people, and I'm going to talk about my campaign. Right now we're starting our fundraising drive, so we expect we're probably to be hopefully within 6 figures by the end of this quarter. We'll see how it works. But I've got the people's support in all 65 towns. I've got support in this district. And what I'm telling everybody is there's a lot of hope. There's good stuff. It's not. I kind of tend to disagree with other speakers. I think it's easy to be a Republican. I love what we stand for. I believe in what we stand for. I have my whole life. Traditional families believe these things. Connecticut believes these things. And I'd love to have your support to help me go down there and to carry that on. So thanks.